Well, hello, friends, and welcome again to another interview between me and my dear buddy and mentor, Tomei Schnitsius. We have discussed many aspects of his work, and what we're in for today is a really special treat. So I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful that you're here, and stick with us till the end because this is going to be significant. So Tomei, I put you on the spot. So
You kind of did. It's like, oh my God.
away we
Uh,
go. Thank you.
do I have to get my halo or something or what?
Yeah, yeah.
This is-
Well, come on, we could work on that.
yeah. Um, yeah. One of the things that I I am fortunate to be able to be gifted with um, is channeling, as Bill knows. And in the last few days, I've had some, sometimes they call it a hit or some energy that comes down or uh, whatever that might be. And I had some information come to me through Yeshua, which he asked me to share with everybody. Um, and so tonight, it might seem like I'm channeling sometimes, quite frankly, and there's sometimes that I'm just sharing with you what I experienced. So we can talk about that later if you get a sense of Yeshua coming through, or Jesus, as some people know him as well. Um, the two subjects that we were going to talk about that kind of commingle a little bit is called um, divine intelligence is one subject, and the other subject was DNA resurrection. DNA resurrection sounds like, wow, what is that all about?
Yes, please tell
pretty,
us.
it's pretty heavy of a topic. Um, and I'm going to leave it to a little bit later because through divine intelligence is where we experience DNA resurrection. So first, I'd like to share a little bit about divine intelligence, and we've already gone over this subject a little bit in past podcasts. If any of you have watched some of the other ones, if not, that's okay too. However, divine intelligence is what you're born with. Um, Divine intelligence is a pure connection from our heart space to all things. Don't necessarily want to call it God, because I'll be quite honest with you, I really don't know who that is. I don't know what that is. I don't think anybody does. I think a lot of people try and define it. And as soon as you define it, you limit it. So I really only can share with you that when I feel in the zone, they call it, or I have a sense of pure balance, um, or just an incredible sense of energetic um, highness or energetic uh, expansion, maybe another word could be for it. I kind of feel I have a sense of that kind of connection. And we all have it. There isn't anybody on this planet that doesn't have that. Each soul is born with that. Most religions, a lot of them would have you believe that you're born as a sinner. Um, I don't even come close to believing that. Don't I believed it when I first grew up because I was taught it, but um, I think in a lot of the Dead Sea Scroll writings and some of the Gospels and in stories that a lot of the disciples and women who were part of the Essene community wrote, they would tell you that you are not born as sinners, that you're born pure, and that pureness is what's known as divine intelligence, and it's already placed upon your soul. It's already there. You're a direct, let's call it, if some people could understand this, a descendant of source energy, a descendant of this divine intelligence. So again, we'll just spend just a real quick moment about saying, why don't you feel that, right? Why don't you know that right away? Well, it's because when we're born as babies, from 1 to 7, that divine intelligence gets to be covered up by programming. Um, the experiences you're having as a child, the experiences of society, the experience of dynamic family, of friendships, of how you're supposed to be and how you're not supposed to be, and the ego comes in, and you form your own ego and cover up what is pure and balanced, and I would say even perfect. I would use the word perfect in who we are in our soul. It just gets covered up. It doesn't mean it's not there. But what happens is divine intelligence gets covered up by all these things. And depending upon how thick that denseness is, how thick that veil is that covers it all up, could be the amount of work you might have to do in your lifetime to uncover it because you've chosen to cover it up with whatever experiences you've had by definitions and emotions and physical, let's just say, stresses that you learn and that you continue to look for. It covers it up as well. And at some point in time, we have the opportunity to finally experience what our divine intelligence can seem like. And you might even have a moment of this in your life where everything just seems to come together, and you're in some kind of place where everything just drops away and you're right in the moment. And there is this sense of everything is just incredibly fine the way it is. And every once in a while, we might have a moment like that in our journey. And I often, I'm sorry, I usually believe that that is something that we do for ourselves to remind us that we're more than what our programming is. We might not know that at the time, but I think, excuse me, I think we give ourselves that opportunity so that we can come back to it at some time and know that it's real. Whether it's more than 50% in your journey, that's a whole nother story. But it's there all the same. It's been there forever. It's never left. It is part of you and it's born with you. So it's not something you have to go reach for. It's not something that you have to experience from the outside, for instance. It's something that's internal. It's part of your journey within to uncover what is already there. And as we've talked about other opportunities of consciousness, we've talked about infinite abundance, we've talked about infinite possibilities. All that lies within divine intelligence. All of those things are a part of that connection. And so if we can start uncovering even just bits and pieces of it, if you will, because it's infinite, there is no limitation to divine intelligence. There is no limitations in how you can experience divine intelligence. There is no limitation on how much you can co-create with divine intelligence. It is all there. What we have to do is uncover it. And that is the work of the journey. That is the work. We always call it the work. What is the work? The work is uncovering what divine intelligence presents to us, what is there for us. There is a uniqueness in your experience of it as a soul, and that's the beauty of it. It can uncover gifts within your own heart space, within this divine intelligence that seem to be more a part of your journey than somebody else's journey. That doesn't make you any better or any less than anybody else. It just means at this point in the juncture of you uncovering something within yourself, that this is maybe one of the first gifts that have come out to show you that you have the ability to manifest or create in ways that some others don't. But again, the work is what's most important, to start uncovering these things so that we can have those realizations and discernments of what we really truly hold in our heart space. We call it divine intelligence because we look at our own intelligence, um, and it's more ego based, it's more dualistic, right and wrong, good and bad, black and white. There's always some kind of separation in the intelligence that we have. We call that the lower mind. The lower mind functions more as a survival instinct, and more of a way of keeping our bodies functioning type of thing, the lower mind. The lower mind has choices it can make, but those choices are all based in programming. And so there's always some kind of judgment that is there with lower intelligence, the lower mind. With divine intelligence, there's absolutely zero, no judgment whatsoever. It is totally about experiential, totally about being in the moment and experience what is happening, because you have chosen, your divine intelligence has chosen for your soul to experience something in this one particular moment. And you're fully in, which means you're fully aware, you're fully allowing, you're fully open. You're allowing all your senses plus your energetic body, which brings you more senses than just your five senses that you normally have, to experience what is happening for you, because these experiences can go outside of you into consciousness as far as your energetic body, to connect you with, say, higher beings, for instance, or ascended masters, or energies that are out there in consciousness that can assist you to grow and to enhance your ability to see things or hear things or notice things. And so this is a whole different experience than our lower mind, which is more apt to be in the third dimensional type experience, which is looking for judgment. It's looking for what's good for me, what's bad for me, what's good for somebody else, what's bad for somebody else. More that separation understanding that we've talked about already quite a bit. Um, and so there's quite a difference between obviously divine intelligence and ego intelligence. And so what we can do eventually, as we do the work, of course, is you start recognizing for yourself which mind is talking to you. Is your ego mind talking to you, creating a story around something, creating a judgment around something, possibly keeping you in a emotion of depression, lower frequency density? Or is your divine intelligence present and looking for an experience? That voice is different than what you would normally hear from your ego. And for some of you out there, it's not, something coming down from above saying, Tomei, you're going to experience this now. I would suggest it's usually a very soft voice. It's usually just something that is intuitional, that comes from your heart space. And it's not a pushing voice. It's not a judgmental voice, of course. It is a voice that is, you might say, somewhat neutral, but also has a sense of joy to it or excitement. I always like to say it's kind of a childlike voice of excitement. If you can remember what it's like to be a child and to finally, be able to play with something you haven't played with before, or to experience something that, like a butterfly, and you just are amazed at what that is, and you're just so keyed into the moment of what you're feeling, what you're experiencing. It's kind of like that, if I can put some words to it. The ego voice usually is a very stern, judgmental type voice in a lot of cases. It will try and fool you every once in a while, of course, but it's always more about judgment. Kind of like, if you do this, look out, because this might happen or that might happen, and so on. Your divine intelligence would never ever say that to you, ever. So right there might be an opportunity for you to see and notice for yourself that the ego intelligence is trying to speak to you, because divine intelligence and your heart would always be looking for whatever is in the moment, no matter what it is. There's no judgment upon what it is at all. So, Bill, I'll just take a little break here. Do you have any questions or any thoughts that you might want to add to what I just kind of went through?
Well, just one quick thing to get started. I have mentioned in a number of my own video recordings having heard a voice or having a voice come to me as a kind of reminder or reinforcement, etc. And what you just said about it's never stern, etc. I can say that the voices that have come ranging from a pretty loud dynamic rather than tone of voice down to just a whisper. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so the voices range a great deal for me. I don't know if that's what different different beings, different aspects of my soul
Mm-hmm.
talking to me or not, and in those situations.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I can certainly remember several of them where the invitation, it's just a very invitational voice. It's a very friendly voice, and it is almost childlike.
Yeah. I would also I would add to that by saying that the more work that you do, you recognize the ego intelligence by its vibration. You start learning a lot about energy work and vibrational feelings and sensations and so on as you continue to uncover your heart space, which then begins to be more open to energies and vibrations and frequencies. And you start recognizing the frequency you've been holding with ego, your own ego. And it becomes pretty obvious after a while. It takes time. I mean, we all do the work. So in the beginning stages, it can be a little difficult to notice for yourself. Is this the intuitive voice? Is this the ego voice? Is it even another voice of a being of some kind that's outside of me? Uh, just takes a little time to uncover all those things. But I would suggest that there's almost, even if the ego tries to be soft, the vibration is still the same. It's just trying to use softness to trigger you, yet you can really feel that, no, this is definitely my ego because it doesn't have a different vibrational frequency that you've created is always the same vibrational frequency because it is third dimensional. So you can feel it, you know, um, pretty strongly once you start doing the work. And so
Well, I'm
the
glad.
other,
Oh,
go ahead. The
excuse
other
me.
voices that you're talking about, um, I would suggest that as you do the work and you uncover your heart and open it up and so on, the divine intelligence can come to you in many different ways. But of course, it's never in judgment and it's never telling you what to do. So that's what I mean by a stern voice. It's like it's not trying to say you better do this or you better not do this kind of a thing. It's more of like you say, an invitation. There's an opportunity here. You might want to be with this. Um, it can be soft. It can be a little louder. It just depends on the moment and what the awareness is about what's going on. So divine intelligence, I'm just going to suggest, is always a higher frequency. The ego intelligence is always a lower density frequency.
I think it's important to note that we get those intuitive nudges. That is, there's no voice. Okay,
Right.
it's
Yeah.
just an intuitive. Suddenly you know something, or
Yeah.
suddenly you're aware of something, and there can be substance conveyed in that awareness. I mean,
Hmm.
it's about something. Um, and it doesn't have to be a voice. So I don't think
Yeah.
either of us is saying that you have to walk around listening to voices.
Yeah. Yeah. And you start talking to yourself back and forth, and you might be going in the loony bin at some point because people will see you. Um, I would suggest here that the intuitive voice does not have fear in it, and the ego voice does. So when you have an intuition, usually it's just a feeling, and because it's a choice that you're about to make. And usually the intuitive feeling comes in instantaneously, and then the ego intuitive, let's say, voice or feeling or push comes in, like you better do this, or there's a fear that resonates with it. Like if you don't do this, this might happen, or you do that, then this is going to happen, and so on. And your gut then is not your intuitive gut, it's more your ego. And it's creating a fear that if you don't do it this way, then things aren't going to be very good. Your intuitive voice from the heart isn't interested in it's not going to be any good. Not at all. It's truly just in the moment. This is your best course of action. You might say the choices that you have in front of me are a choice you're going to make. And then what comes, what comes. And sometimes our ego will come in and say, well, see how bad that worked out. And it might not have worked out quite the way you would have liked, but if you go with the flow and accept what is there and be with it, that's maybe a step that had to take place so the outcome could be the way your intuitive feeling was trying to assist you with. And so there is no perfect answer right away. That's one of the things that we learn as a master is patience. We allow ourselves the opportunity to let things play out instead of immediately trying to put our own lower frequency mind, the ego intelligence into it really quick, and just letting things play out sometimes so that we really can feel and sense the directions that our intuitive guide wanted to take us. So that's a
Yes.
lot right there. And it takes time to really become one with that, become more aware of that. And I'm sure as Bill would say too, this is a constant awareness. This is not something that, oh, I got it all of a sudden. The intuition on any given day is going to change based upon the experiences that are in front of us. And as Yassine said, whatever is there in front of me is there to help me master myself as long as I don't judge it. If I judge it, then I'm going down the ego road. If I can just be open to it, then I'm going to grasp everything that can possibly be grasped as a learning situation for me. So there's some things like that that we can retain and remember for ourselves that as soon as judgment comes in, it's like, oh, wait a minute, let me take a step back and take a breath and just be with what is here instead of judging it so quickly and see where this takes me and not care where it takes you. Just allow it to take you where it's going to take you so you can fully appreciate and be grateful for what it's there to teach you. And that's divine intelligence.
I'd like to go back way early to what you said about we're taught about being born in sin, or we're taught about being, wrong and bad and inadequate, etc.
Sure.
And you mentioned the Essenes and the texts, etc.
Yeah.
I would just like to offer the word if people want to go online and
Mm-hmm.
just put in the words Gnostic, Gnostic, Gnostic texts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They'll get a ton of information that will take them right to where you were referring.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Okay.
there's a
And
lot of,
some
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
some of it is a scene written by what we call the Essenes.
Mm-hmm.
There were multiple Essene communities, um, but many of the people in those communities was carrying very highly evolved souls, and certainly tons and tons of this divine intelligence that Tomei is talking about.
And to be really a little bit more open about that, um, these communities have been on the planet for hundreds of thousands of years. They keep coming back to see if humanity is ready for this kind of growth. And uh, you can look back to Atlantis, you can look back to the same community some 2,500, 3,000 years ago, and even before that. You can look back and some of the archaeology findings they're finding today, where there were these settlements. They're just starting to find them where they can't even put numbers on them. I mean, they're so old. they're way past anything we could have ever even imagined. And what they're finding is they're not finding any tools for warfare. They're not finding any knives and arrows or guns, for instance, or anything for warfare, which leads them to believe that these communities lived in peace. They lived together and shared their communities with other communities without taking, without needing. They had a whole different energetic lifestyle. This is just what they're saying. They don't have any written documents or anything yet, but since they're not finding any of these um, tools of warfare anywhere, in no mass graves, in no, if they find a grave, there's no grave where anybody's been maimed. It's all like natural type deaths. And so they're starting to put together the understanding like at one time, we actually were a peaceful humanity. And in every time after that, for instance, they try to bring that peace back to humanity when there was more of a dualistic nature of what was going on, the need to be right, the need to be, one up, the need to take, the need to have what somebody else has, that sort of thing. Then it was difficult for this kind of consciousness to be adhered to, if you will, or held. And so that's why you see Atlantis being destroyed. That's why you see the Essene community being destroyed. That's why you even see the Tibetan culture that was in Tibet destroyed, where the Chinese came in and closed all the temples and didn't allow them to preach or to teach what they know. They had to leave. Dalai Lama had to get out before they got him. So the reasons this all happens is because societies that get formed are societies that have to be in control. Anytime we have control, then there is going to be edicts and laws and so on that you have to follow, whether they be right or wrong. And when you live in an open society where everybody just shares with each other and there is no hierarchy per se, then everybody's voice is heard. Everybody's feelings are felt. Nobody says they're wrong or right. And I know most of us could never even understand what that could be like. I mean, we're so trained in programming at this point in our lives that we can't even comprehend what that might look like. Well, the shift is all about that, and that's what's happening right now. The energies that are coming in from the various galactic core into our sun, and then into the energies that are hitting the Earth, all the photons that are hitting the Earth, all the particles, the electrons that are spinning way faster than ever before, are touching our planet, but they're also touching us. And it's awakening us to a new possibility. The the low frequency energy of most governments is going to try and stop it. And they're coming out stronger to stop it. That's why you're seeing so much chaos. But we still have the opportunity to make this change. In fact, it's already started. And each one of us has an opportunity to do that within ourselves first, which is opening of the divine intelligence we just talked about. The divine intelligence will help guide us through these chaotic times to do for ourselves, to make the choices for ourselves, what's best for all. And so as we keep working on ourselves and opening up that divine intelligence, and we've talked about this in podcasts, we allow our hearts to become coherent with our higher brain, our higher intelligence, our divine intelligence. Our hearts are our guide. And in that is the divine intelligence. The energy from the heart of divine intelligence starts moving up the channel into our higher chakra, the chakra that's above your crown chakra. And that chakra that's above your crown chakra is kind of golden color, and it's the highest chakra for intelligence. And as the energy from the heart rises up through the channel, up past the crown chakra to your upper chakra, it ignites the rest of the chakras in such a way that they begin spinning in perfect coherence with the rest of your energetic body. Now, some of you that are listening to this right now are probably getting pretty excited about that, and some of you are like, what the hell is he talking about? Um, the the experience of this can only be had, and I'm not trying to say that nobody has that within them. What I'm trying to say is there has to be a pure intent from you to yourself to be able to open these things up. You have to commit yourself to truly being humble. You have to be in humility and gratitude to have these things happen, because they won't happen if you're going to use it against something. We're not here to open ourselves up to use it against the chaos of the world. That's not what we're doing. We're opening it up with inside of ourselves so we can present it and establish it on the planet. We do it through our hearts. We do it through our divine intelligence instead of competing, fighting, trying to get rid of something that is other than that. That is not how this works. That's not how the communities ever worked in the past. We are here to present this as a higher being. When we do this, when you each do this on your own, nothing, and I mean nothing, has control over you at that point. Nothing. You're at the highest level you can be, and nothing can touch you that's of lower frequency. And that's a scientific fact. We've talked about that in other podcasts, where lower frequency melds into higher frequency. So if you're at higher frequency, nothing can harm you, nothing can hurt you. And at that point of being higher frequency, if you are in tune with your energetic body and your physical body, what ends up happening is you have a DNA resurrection. A DNA resurrection is the divine intelligence that's placed in your DNA all of a sudden becomes enhanced. It's like you turn it on. It's already there, but now by connecting with it, you're turning it on. So it's being reborn, it's being rebirthed, it's being resurrected. When that happens, you are beginning the stages of changing your physical body, which means your cellular structure and the rest of the DNA in your physical body, to a higher tuning of that same frequency. And we all hold that. We all hold that DNA strand that has that divine connection to divine intelligence to be attuned and started to enhance the rest of who you are. This is your truth. You know, you hear people say, well, what's your truth? What's your truth? Well, I don't know what my truth is. I don't know what my purpose is and all that sort of thing. Well, guess what? When you open that DNA strand and you open that resurrected DNA, you will be in tune with exactly why you're here, why exactly what you're going to do through the gifts that are available to in those moments, even in moments to come, to be able to serve not only yourself because you have attuned to it, but to serve the best for all in all situations that show up in front of you. Some will see you and some won't. So now I bring in Yeshua. When I resurrected from the tomb, My DNA strand was in perfect harmony with all things. I had attained a vibrational existence where my energetic body became who I was, still in somewhat of a physical form. Some could see me in that physical form. Those that could see me would be at the same understanding and higher frequency that was about to happen for them eventually. But they could see with their third eye, they could see with their feeling aspect of who they were. Their hearts were completely open to it. They just had a knowing of a connection with the vibration they could see and sense within me that brought them into the DNA strand that they had within divine intelligence within their heart. There was an instantaneous knowing of being able to know who I was in those moments. So when I walked out of the tomb, the first one that saw me was Mary Magdalene. She was already in a state of high frequency and could see me instantaneously, but wasn't quite sure what she was seeing because this was the first time she had experienced anything like this before. She even explains that in some of her writings. As I walked with her a little further, she finally understood that it was me, and not me in the third dimensional sense, but it was me that she felt and knew from the energetic connections that we had had before, and even with the new ones that she was feeling in the moment. When I appeared to the rest of my disciples in this same way, some of them were not allowed to touch me, and some could. I also only appeared to certain ones at certain times because they were not ready or they were ready, either way, to see something of such high frequency. They didn't understand what it is they were seeing. Some were scared of seeing a ghost, as when I walked on the water before I got to their boat. They didn't recognize me in the higher energy that I was as I was walking on the water. Each one of you has this ability. And so to be reborn again is to die into yourself as you have been told. But to be reborn, you must allow your DNA resurrection to take place. It doesn't mean it's going to be instantaneously throughout your whole energetic body. But the point here is that you do have it. And once you, with pure intent, go in and say, this is what I choose, because you know in that moment it's available to you, which means you've done the work, as Tomei has talked about all the way up to this point, that the work is to uncover what is already there. It is like a child finding a new toy. I have told you in the past that to be a child is how you find the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven is in front, inside of you, right in front of you. It is there. It is the DNA resurrection that we can now put a scientific understanding to, because your society has figured out what DNA is, what the strand is all about. And some of your scientists and even some of your spiritual directors, if you will, have now tried to share with you that that DNA strand that you hold, that spark, is actually there. They can measure it now. They're not sharing that with you, but they now can actually measure that strand. They know it's there. They don't know what to call it yet, but it is there. So to move ahead and be reborn or rebirthed, there was kind of a third dimensional viewpoint of that before, which said that you have to give up who you think you are to be able to be reborn into who you truly are. I am taking it now past that, and saying who you truly are is this DNA resurrection, this DNA strand that you hold within you. This is what must be reborn. And the only way it can be reborn is through a pureness of love energy, a high vibration of an energy that is everywhere in the universe. This is just not happening here. There are other places where other beings are being reborn as well. They're not being reborn, though, the same way you are. The test here is to be forgotten. As you know, when you're born, you forget who you are. You cover yourself up in programming, in traits, in choices, and experiences until one day they don't serve you any longer and you still have amnesia. You still forget who it is that you are, who you truly are. And it takes time to uncover what you already hold, because the energies that are so dense and so strong and mask everything have been created and manifested by you. You look outside of you to find the answers of how to unmask it, yet all along, the unmasking is your work, not somebody else's, programming of saying, here's the steps to get there. You already know the steps because you already created what it is that's holding you back from experiencing the pureness of who you are, the truth of who you are. I only showed you a way of doing that, and it was very demonstrative. It was through pain and suffering. The pain and suffering, in my case, was an outgrowth of pure pain and suffering physically. What I'm telling you today is that same description and demonstrative pain and suffering that I went through, you will go through. And I'm not trying to create fear for you, but the things that you have created within yourself, the experience that you chose to have, and thus the emotions that you placed upon them, carries as much pain and suffering as I went through as they nailed my hands and my feet. If I can walk through it, so can you. There is no difference between the two of us. None. You are not a sinner. You did not come into this world a sinner. I preached that over and over and over again, and they killed me for it. Because they killed me for it, they had to. They had no choice, because they would lose out completely in the control that they have over you. What you're finding now today, and what Tome just shared with you, is the fact that once you reach this stage, once you find your truth and begin to live it in a third dimensional sense, you say goodbye to control. The sons of midnight, they're called. The sons of darkness lose their control over you. They don't know what to do. They must scramble. They must do everything they can to stop you. Yet there's too many of you now. Many of you that are just beginning to get started can be assisted by so many more that are out there if you just ask your higher self to bring them in. You must ask. You're still in a free will state. You still have choices. So we can't just come in and tell you what steps and choices you must make to get to this place. I will say once again, you already have a knowing of that, because you already have a knowing of how you put it together to stop the truth from being found. You must search that in yourself. You must search within yourself for the answers you've already created. The solutions are there. Tomei's been very good with many of you in sessions to help you realize that if you became a master of your own programming, you have showed yourself you can be a master of all things. Why not change the vibration of that mastership into a mastership of starting to manifest and create and experience higher frequencies instead of lower frequencies? I invite you to do so. As you do, many synchronicities and opportunities will begin to happen that have always been around you. But we know, and when I say we, you have a multitude, and I mean thousands of ascended masters, angels, beings waiting to assist you. And all you have to do is ask. It's not important to know who they are, yet at some point you might find out. But the point is, they're all there to assist you, as well as I am. Just reach out. Even if it's your darkest moment, which is when you usually reach out, we will be there. But why not reach out all the time? Why not reach out as soon as you open your eyes in the morning? Why not reach out before you close your eyes at night? Why not reach out when you know you're going to be walking into the most difficult surgery you've ever had? Why not reach out before you want to make a decision to be in a relationship with somebody? Why not reach out for any moment? And once again, understand that what you might get back is something that you really weren't expecting, but allow it to take its course. We try to teach patience and humility for each master on this planet, and you're all masters. So understand the DNA resurrection is in each one of you. It's waiting to be explored and enhanced. Your cells cannot wait in your physical body, and your energetic electrons that are all around you in your energetic body are already at a tuned place to start the process. There's nothing you have to do except for to be pure intent in your experience of opening up that DNA strand that is waiting for you within your heart space. It isn't anywhere else. You hold it in your heart space. You were born with it. It's always been there. I just need a moment here before I go on.
Thank you. Thank you profoundly for that. Well, Tony May, that was absolutely staggering and profound. I don't know that there's much one can add to that in any respect in terms of one's inner growth, in terms of one being on the path, in terms of one surrendering the ego and discovering who they really are and what they really are. This has been a profound experience. I sense that you'd like to follow up
Yeah.
with some clarifying comments, and I invite you to do that. But thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. It was really beautiful. One of the things that was happening when he was channeling through me, what I got to see, and what he shared with me before as well, was that the feeling of the resurrection process. So it's kind of like when, there's this glorified way of looking at him ascending into heaven and all this sort of thing. And it's really not true. Um, he pretty much lived the rest of his days on the planet, and if some of you have read the Anna book, um, it's sometimes it's hard to really accept what she is saying in that book, but Yeshua showed me that he lived the rest of his days and for 600 more years of our time. It wasn't just 30 or 40 years after he came out of the tomb. Um, he was here for roughly 600 years as well and traveled throughout the world energetically, just showing up, and he could change his physical body, his energetic body, into a physical body at will, so he could be present. Maybe some of you know about Baba Ji. Baba Ji is a ascended master that shows up in India a lot, but he always shows up as a young, like teenager in some respect looking. So he'll be there energetically, then all of a sudden he'll be there physically to speak to whatever initiate is possible there. So I would say that this was the thing that Yeshua was trying to show me too, is that there's the possibility that you just don't leave here that soon and go, across over to the other dimension and not stay here and still continue to serve. He was here for 600 more years, but in such a different capacity that we would never understand that that's who he was. So 600 years of our time is a long time, and showing up in various different ways. He was teaching others one on one. And now I fully understand why the mystery school said that is how the teaching's always been done. And in seeing him do that, it really gave me a sense of honor to do the sessions I do one on one with people and understand that this has always been done that way. And to me, I can't see any other way of doing it. It's really a beautiful thing. One of the other things he showed me while I was channeling, because a lot of times when I'm channeling, he's speaking and he's sharing with you his understandings and trying to help you find yourselves in whatever way that might be. I'm also seeing things that he's done or what he's been doing. And one of the things that he showed me was when he did ascend and he did, do the DNA resurrection. And I don't know if that's going to happen for all of us or not. He says right now that this is definitely a possibility. Is that when your DNA resurrection takes place, it's like you're crossing over to the other side, and you will see a light. You hear people that die. The near death experiences, the NDEs. You've heard a lot about them. There's a great website to go to on YouTube by Cheney. His name is can't remember his first name, but he does a lot of interviews on this. And obviously, when some of you have heard this before too, is when these people die into what's ever going on and they cross over, they obviously usually see some kind of light at the end of the tunnel. They see a vortex. A lot of them can explain the vortex differently, but they all see a light. And what Yeshua was showing me was that the light we see is actually our own light. It is our own DNA resurrection. It is our own connection to source. That's why we feel so comforted by it. We are going back home again. And back home is to be back in that light that we already are. Right now, I'm so emotional because it's so comforting and it's so beautiful that we have that ability within ourselves to have that happen and to feel the experience of that and bring it forward into our third dimensional beingness, which is just blowing me away. It's like we're not going anywhere. We're not going to resurrect to some other place. We're going to do it here. We're actually going to do it here. That's the difference between what's going on in the rest of the universe, where other beings are resurrecting their own DNA. We're resurrecting our DNA in a third dimensional consciousness, which is totally different than what they're doing. that's the uniqueness of this experiment, if you want to call it that. And for him to come down right now and to share that with us is, it's the grandest of gifts. I'm really back by tonight. I mean, it's just amazing.
Well, we are blessed beyond
Maturity.
measure. We are blessed beyond measure to have been gifted that.
Yeah, I mean, we have it on record now. I mean, we have just recorded this. We are still recording this, and now it's on record for those who wish to let them experience what we've talked about. I'm sure it'll go to those that are ready to hear it. Um, and then they can take it and share it with others who they feel are ready to hear it. And it will expand. Um, it's amazing to me that this is now being recorded as well, so that all can hear what this is. Um,
Let me offer to our audience, I know you and I have mentioned one of these books in a previous interview. But Tomei just talked about the Anna book. Well, the name of the book is Anna, the Grandmother of Jesus. I'm sorry, I can't remember the author's name, but it is a channeled book.
yeah,
And I mean, it explains incredibly a lot about the Essene. There were two major Essene communities in Jesus' biblical time. One is the one at Qumran that people know about, and the other
right.
one is the one where she was located, which was much closer to the Mediterranean Sea and up in northwest Palestine, Israel. Um, but really, I just urge you, get a hold of that book and read that book. The other book that gives an understanding and an appreciation of who Yeshua was as a interdimensional being is the book that Dolores Cannon wrote called Jesus and the Essenes. And that just gives you another rather incredible perspective about aspects of his life, especially the resurrection and the crucifixion experience, et cetera, et cetera. Um,
Hmm.
but at any rate, thank you for mentioning that, and I
Hmm.
hope our viewers will pursue that and appreciate the incredible gift we have just received.
Yeah,
It's absolutely wonderful. Thank you.
yeah, yeah. Well, thank him. It's beautiful. Um, yeah. I didn't know that actually I was going to channel it, quite frankly. I thought I'd speak about it, but why not have him come in and speak himself? Um, sometimes I know some people might feel a little uneasy about channeling and they're not quite sure what that is and so on. But yeah, we all have that same ability to channel beings and energies, and we all have gifts along those lines. And once you open up your heart fully and trust in the energies that are coming in, um, then you can become a channel as well for yourself. And sometimes you can, come up with information for other people too that can be found within uh, being that guide or being that open vessel of the energies that are coming in. So um, we all have opportunities for that. Um, there are also various techniques, I would call them, from the mystery schools that help us open up our portals and our channeling ability, and um, we can go into that another time. Um, if you ever, I'll leave this with Bill at this point, and you guys, and for maybe another subject that we could get into, and that's opening up your halo and opening up some of the um, tubes that we all have. If you've ever looked at artwork of sacred, um, let's just call them saints or individuals that are considered higher frequency human beings that are on this planet. If you would look at, say, Yeshua's or Jesus's pictures, there's always a halo around him, but there's also tubes that come out in the circle of the halo. What that would signify is that he was totally open to receive the energies because of the openings of the tubes that are around him. And there are techniques that we could do to open those for people, but that's something that we have to discuss a little bit because it has to be done in a really intimate way for each person. So I can explain them at some point, but to actually do that kind of work, it's important to have somebody that knows how to assist you to open those up so that they don't create some some energies that might come in that aren't really going to assist you. So anyway, I thought I'd throw out that for discussions to as well, Bill, for another time.
Well, thank you for mentioning those. Obviously, I've experienced going through those processes with you,
Yeah.
and wasn't sure whether we were ever going to get that far and that deep into some of the work that you do. But yes, this will be a discussion that Tomei and I will have and use both his discretion and his higher guidance in deciding how to present it and in what form. So we'll do that. Thank you for this gift. Thank you for
No,
this
you're
gift.
welcome. It's my honor. It always
Yeah.
is. That was really, that felt so wonderful. So thank you guys all for being here too and to take part in this because now you are a part of this whole resurrection, DNA
Yeah.
resurrection opportunity, you know?
I hate to offer good humor at this point, but I think Tomei has just said, now you're one of the spirit partners.
Yeah.
Uh, okay,
Absolutely.
because we've been gifted with something very special here.
Yeah.
So thank you, Tomei. And
You're welcome.
yes, there will be more. So as I always say, stay tuned and with great gratitude and love. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Audience, thank you.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.